Hello and welcome to this new video for me. Today I want to recap the Birmingham as well as the Rio de Janeiro regionals that have happened yesterday and the day before. I will mainly focus on the teams that were used and why the meta is looking like Shadow Rider does not exist anymore and Kyogre is the best restricted. I will explain everything step by step, but I also wanted to highlight two more things that were really interesting. As you can see here, this team was used and it was on stream and it had 2 win-ins. This team started off 5-1. This team finished 5-3 and it has so many cool things, but also so many crazy things like Citrus Berry Raging Bolt. You know how Raging Bolt cannot eat its Citrus Berry when Calyrex Ice or Calyrex Shadow are on the field because of the as one ability. But what is Citrus Berry? Why is Raging Bolt eating a fruit? Like, what is it for? I don't know. But also, do you see this combination of Boomburst Neuron with Copycat Sylveon? So you use Boomburst and then you use Boomburst with your Pixelate Sylveon. That's a neat strategy. Also, Protect Incineroar, Soldier's Groudon. Like, I don't know where to start. And it obviously worked pretty well for them. So, huge shout outs to that team. Another huge shout out to Dynamite, Oliver Gauston. He used this team, okay? He used this team to also be featured on stream with. And I don't know, like Tinkaton, Eternatus, Reggie Eleki, what? He also won the stream set in a convincing fashion. And like, that was just a really, really cool showing of Choice Specs Eternatus. But honestly, I don't know why there's a Tinkaton. But he also finished 5-3, got some championship points. You can use the rental. I will put off my cam. Boom. This is the rental. On the top right, you can see the rental. Shoutouts to Oliver, of course, for building that creative team. If you want to use it, feel free to do so, but also check out his Twitter. His Twitter is DynamiteVGT. I will link it in the description below. Really, really amazing person, fun to talk with, and also insane team builder, as you can see. But that's not everything. There's also some more stuff that has happened. Like, he was playing on stream against Adam Shao, and he, I will just show it to you. Look at this reaction. Like, that is so funny. Like, he sees the team sheet and is like, wait, he sees the team sheet and is like, what the hell? And this is just always so funny when you use creative stuff like Oliver just did. Also, when the regional champ said this the day before the tournament, never felt so underprepared. I had to study for uni, so I couldn't test much, and I didn't explore Reg G when it first came out, so I don't feel in this meta like I felt in Reg H. My only hope is that tomorrow I just click in and learn on the go, but let's see. And then he wins the regional. Like, what is the timeline? I honestly, it's just insane to see that even if you don't feel that confident in going into the tournament, you can still win it all, and that's just amazing to see. But now I want to analyze what probably most of you also were here for, the metagame. As you can see here, Birmingham Regionals, if we click at it, Miraidon won the whole thing. And it is basically just the world's winning team with, I think, 2 small changes. The Farigiraf is Psychic instead of Psychic Noise, and the Iron Hands is Terra Poison instead of Terra Bug. Terra Poison is a smart adaptation. You lose the ground, or you keep the ground weakness even when you Terra. That's not great, especially into Landorus Ice stuff. But Terra Poison is really good into Zamazenta stuff, because you have a fighting resistant Terra, which you also have with Terra Bug. But Iron Hands teams were starting to run Chi-Yu Flutter main, which you will see in a little bit. And that's why Iron Hands with Terra Poison is also good into those. With Terra Bug, if you don't Terra, you have a Fairy weakness. If you Terra, you have a Fire weakness. But Terra Poison is neutral across the board. So a very smart adaptation. And people call this team Rinya's Sun 2.0 because in 2022, Sword and Shield Series 12, the meta was revolving around Rinya's Sun. Rinya's Sun is the team that was able to get to second place at Worlds. Did it win Worlds? No, Edu was not using Rinya's Sun, was he? But the team is Gastrodon, Groudon, Grimmsnarl, Charizard, that kind of team. Because this team is also super popular and it just keeps winning tournament after tournament, people will say that this is like similar to Rinya's Sun, because Rinya's Sun was also just farming tournaments. Or also in the era of Sun and Moon, there was this one, or was it X and Y? The one big six team with Xerneas, Groudon, Smeargle, Talonflame, but here we have a Miraidon team, which plays very different than the ones I mentioned, but the consistency is what is very similar to the teams I just talked about. And it's interesting to see because it has won the World Championship. So people should have been prepared for it. And I would say people were prepared for it. But that just doesn't take away the fact that it is a very good team, because obviously you can be prepared against it, but if you play a very, 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 very hard counter team for that team, you will just sacrifice basically every other matchup. So that's why you cannot do that. You can obviously say, okay, I'm going to face Miraidon 10 out of 10 times, but that's just not the case. You kind of want to cover everything, and that's why you cannot prepare against everything, and this team can even beat weaker matchups. Everything feels doable because you have really good supporting pieces. You have a lot of damage with Ogapon, Halflame, Miraidon, Urshifu, and Hands, and overall a really good team. We will probably see it in San Antonio as well in Top Cut. I don't think it will win the tournament again, but it's definitely a team to watch out for. But the huge breakout was from Kyogre. Kyogre actually almost won the regional as well, but it missed so many Origin pulses on stream, I don't know where to start. This is the team Oliver Ascolian used to get to second place, but he also used the very same team to get to Top Cut, top 16 at the World's Championship as well. So he just went with comfort, and it is a really good team if you connect your moves with Kyogre, because it also has a good matchup into pretty much everything. Miraidon is beatable because Amoonguss, Rillaboom, Kyogre, Urshifu offer a lot of nice tools. Ogapon Halflame is annoying for the team, but you can use Scarf Urshifu to deal with it, or you can also go with Roaring Moon, Incineroar. Those are very good into Halflame, but the main part why Kyogre delivered even more than it did is that it has a good matchup into everything else pretty much. Shadow Rider, because of the Roaring Moon as well as the Incineroar, you've got really good dark types. You have a Cormine Kyogre, which can set up against most of the supporters from Calyrex Shadow, like Clefairy, Incineroar, and that's why Kyogre, especially this Kyogre team, matches up so well into Calyrex Shadow. It obviously has a good matchup into Calyrex Ice. Can be tricky because sometimes the Calyrex Ice Rider player can force a Terra on Kyogre, and then you have a lot of Glacial Land's weaknesses. But I would say it's definitely doable still. I played this kind of team at the Victory Road tournament, December challenge number 1 it should have been, and the team just felt really strong. The Terrapagos matchup is a little tricky, but even that is winnable because you can just win on timer. That's what I did multiple times. Also, the interesting part about this team is the Rillaboom being a drum beating set, max speed, jolly nature. So that way you can outspeed Adamant Urshifu, you can go for drum beating into Origin Pulse and KO the Urshifu before I can move. Even the Focus Sash variants, because drum beating the secondary effect is a guaranteed speed drop, and that's why Rillaboom is also a nice form of speed control. And overall, a really good team. If you like, if I type in Kyogre here, if we take a look at the top cut, we had this very same team 5 times, pretty much. Marcus was using Jugulis instead of Warring Moon. Warring Moon is slightly better, I would say, because it has knockoff to remove assault vests as well as citrus berries, and it is also threatening a lot of damage onto grass types with acrobatics as well. But Jugulis does the same with Hurricane, and it offers a different type of support, namely Snarl, for special attack drops, which is really nice. But I think the dragon typing is also just better than the flying typing. But as you can see, this team is just everywhere. Now, 5 appearances in Top Cut is really a lot, because there were just 19 teams. 5 out of 19, that's more than 25%. And that's why this team is definitely something to watch out for. Next up, Calyrex Ice is the second most used Pokemon, or second most used restricted in the top cut next to Miraidon. We can also take a look at the other Miraidon teams. We were seeing the same team 3 times. Javier Senorena also was featured on stream as well twice. And he used a different approach of Miraidon. This is also his Worlds team as far as I know. A different Iron Hand spread. Electric Seed Iron Hands with Sword Sense, pretty interesting. Iron Leaves and Incineroar, something you usually do not see on the Miraidon teams, but it makes sense because Incineroar, the cool part about Incineroar is, you know how annoying it is to deal with Rillaboom Amoonguss, where you can switch to Rillaboom, have terrain, spore something really bad, right? But if you have Miraidon and Incineroar, you can click Volt Switch, U-turn, so they switch into Rillaboom, you Volt Switch, then you switch into something, then Incineroar goes for U-turn, you switch with Incineroar slot into Miraidon, you have electric terrain again, and boom, suddenly the Amoonguss can still not go for Spore, and you have a Miraidon in electric terrain against Rillaboom Amoonguss. Very, very nice. The problem with that team is that the Miraidon obviously doesn't have a way to block Fake Out. It does not have Terra Ghost. There's no Farigiraf on the team, but you have Light Screen on Whimsicott to just make this Miraidon a little bulkier. You've got Intimidate on the Incineroar to do the same. So if you position yourself correctly, this Miraidon even works without Farigiraf. But that's why Javier is also basically the only person playing that team, because it looks like it's very hard to play. Also the Iron Leaves, Mega Horn to punish grass types, Psyblade to hit Amoonguss very well, and Iron Leaves can maybe catch people off guard as well. Other than that, we've had 4 Calyrex Ice teams in Top Cut, but I think there was only one getting to top 8. There was Raidang, Florian Temmes, Salatin Storm, and Jungsi Zhu. We see the same team twice. I don't know if Sela and Florian were using the exact same sets. Not at all. Like, Florian was using Clear Smog Amoonguss, as well as Terra Fire Kelly Ice, Terra Electric Raging Bolt with Dragon Pulse. He had a very good day 1, and Shadow Ball Psychic Hyper Voice Farigiraf is also another nice Pokemon on Calyrex Ice teams to block Fake Out, to get maximum value out of your Trick Room, and also it's also an offensive threat with a Throat Spray. But Cella's team is a little more interesting because it features Terra Poison Raging Bolt, which is pretty good into Zamazenta teams again. But the most interesting part, in my opinion, is that Farigiraf set with Terra Blast and Terra Dragon. You have a single target Terra Blast, stab, or you go Terra Dragon, which is then a Dragon stab, and you can hit stuff like Terra Dragon, Zamazenta, Miraidon, a Warring Moon, a Koraidon. Like, a restricted format often features Dragon types, so that is pretty cool to see. No Psychic on that set, interestingly enough, because Psychic is something you usually want to have to hit Urshifu or Amoonguss with. but we don't see it on that set, and I still wanted to feature it. And Jungsi was going crazy with Grimsnarl screens, and with Calyrex Ice screens on Grimsnarl. Really interesting. Also, this is an error. This is Landorus Eye with Sheer Force, not Intimidate. But other than that, also a very interesting team with some tools you see on Ice Rider teams, like the Amoonguss or the Urshifu, but we see Iron Hands, Landorus, and Grimsnarl as new pieces, and I think it works very well because you've got this electric ice coverage, but you also got electric ground coverage with Hans Lando. The team is a little too slow, just as the other Calyrex Ice teams. That's why I don't like it too much, because you really rely on Trick Room. But they performed very well, as you can see. No Calyrex Ice in top 8 though, so top 4, so maybe Calyrex Ice is still washed. Then the next most used restricted was Groudon. Groudon was very interesting. Flavio was actually able to get an undefeated Swiss record on day 1. But when he had the stream match, it was so painful to see that his out was like spam Sleep Powder, Precipice Blades. This is nothing for me, just spamming Sleep Powder and Precipice Blades. But the team is just really good because it has a lot of offensive pressure, but also defensive backbone. And if you want to gamble a little bit, I can really recommend it. It does not mean that he did this every round, that he just clicked Sleep Powder, Precipice Blades, Sleep Powder, Precipice Blades. That is not what I mean. He played it very well, otherwise he would have not gotten to top cut at the Birmingham Regional. But Jumpluff is just such an annoying one, where I think if it connects all moves, it can literally be one of the best Pokemon in the meta. But since it doesn't, imagine Jumpluff got Spore. Damn, I could not live with that. But yeah, really, really cool team. You can use you can maximize your Terran turns with Urshifu Single Strike because of the Unseen Fist ability. We love to see it. And just, I think, even though it looks a little weird, it is definitely strong. So is the other Groudon team that also made it to top 8. Where should I start? AV Groudon with Choice Band Urshifu, Gouging Fire, Life Orb Bolt. It has way too much going for it. Again, a lot of moves that can miss. Draco Meteor, Icicle Crash, Heatwave, Will-O-Wisp, Precipice Blades, High Horsepower. Nothing for me for sure, but I think the showing on stream was really the showing on stream really showed how good that team can actually be. It has a lot of sun supporters, or like not sun supporters, but Pokemon that profit from the sun. But also in general, just the damage output from this team is insane. So I think if you again want to gamble a little bit, if you don't care about missing your moves, maybe that team is clicking for you, because it looks fun to play, but you always have to keep in mind that you can miss your moves. And why did Groudon do so well at that tournament? Or at least better than in the last tournaments? Well, the reason for it is that Miraidon usage was very high. So was the usage of Zamazenta, and Groudon, especially Pardo's, Flavio Del Pidio's team, is really good into Zamazenta, as we also saw on stream. So technically, I would say it is based on the usage. I think it is VGC data. Or is it VGC database? No, it's not VGC database. There is a Twitter account, VGC statistics, which shows that. Oh, is it VGC data? Let me check. Oh yeah, this was what I was looking for. So the restricted Pokemon usage in day 2, like if you compare these two, oh, never mind. Boom and boom. Like if you compare these two, do you see, like this is day 1 and this is day 2. Do you see how Calyrex Shadow plummets in day 2? It's crazy how the usage from 18% drops to 10%. That has never happened before. Even Kyogre was played more than Calyrex Shadow in day 2. And the reason for that is that Calyrex Shadow, the typing is just really bad, and it matches up pretty poorly into the most common restricteds. It doesn't have a good matchup into Miraidon, it doesn't have a good matchup into Kyogre, it doesn't have a good matchup into Terrapagos. The Zamazenta players were using Chi-Yu Fluttermane, which it also doesn't want to match up into, and Calyrex-Ice-Rider also has some takes against Calyrex-Shadow-Rider. So in general, Calyrex-Shadow-Rider has a pretty bad matchup spread. Does this mean this Pokemon is bad? Not at all. I just feel like Calyrex-Shadow-Rider players were getting lazy and were just using the most standard Calyrex-Shadow-Rider balance out there, which you have to play like a mad lad to win games with. So I just think that the current Calyrex-Shadow-Rider builds are not great, but that's on the Calyrex-Shadow-Rider to prove us wrong, to add either San Antonio or maybe EUAC. I would not say that Calyrex-Shadow-Rider is bad. I would just say that the teams revolving around Calyrex-Shadow are not the best right now. But yeah, this is the usage from day 1 to day 2. We also got the usage from day 1 to day 2 for the non-restricted, and oh yeah, I forgot again. This is day 2. So the most interesting part is, do you see the rise of Amoonguss? 25 to 42. Amoonguss is the second most used Pokemon, and it makes a lot of sense, because if you take a look at the most used non-restricted, it matches up well into pretty much everything but Incineroar. And into the restricted, it also has a good matchup, because you have something that can outspeed Calyrex Ice in the Trick Room and threaten a Spore into it, and if Trick Room is not set up, you can use other Pokemon to threaten Calyrex Ice offensively. So that is a part of the reason why Amoonguss is so good, but another reason is that it also matches up well into Zamazenta, because Zamazenta only has single target attacks, so it can redirect these attacks, and with Rocky Helmet deals some chip damage, and it matches up well into Miraidon to also just redirect attacks, as well as resisting Electro Drift. And once Electric Train is not up, you can put almost everything on these Miraidon teams to sleep, other than like Half Flame, Ogerpon Half Flame. But Ogerpon Half Flame, you can deal a lot of damage with Sludge Bomb. So that's why we see such a huge rise of Amoonguss. Also a big rise of Chi-Yu from 19% to 26%. Well, part of that is because Zamazenta did well at the tournament, not as well as I expected, but there were a lot of them in day 2 and they had Chi-Yu as a partner. There were also some Miraidon teams with Chi-Yu, of course, and Chi-Yu you can pair with Terrapagos as well. There are some restricted which you can put Chi-Yu on a team with, so that's why I think it was also or it had such a good day 2, or like day 1 for day 2. And then the last Pokemon that had a great rise is Raging Bolt. Part of the reason, again, Raging Bolt most of the time was the 6th slot on the Zamazenta team. It was used on Calyrex Ice, Calyrex Shadow. Like, it is very splashable, which means you can put it on pretty much any team. Obviously not on Miraidon teams. You can be funny and use Rising Voltage Raging Bolt, but other than that, Raging Bolt is just not the best partner for Miraidon, because they share type, and Raging Bolt already is not the fastest Pokemon, so you can use Miraidon as fast damage dealer, and Raging Bolt is just a little bit redundant then. So yeah, but what lost usage? Not a lot. I would say like Whimsicott is not on the graphic anymore. Instead, we see which Pokemon made it into the graphic? Urshifu Single Strike. Yeah, the reason is there are always Miraidon teams with Urshifu Single Strike instead of Rapid Strike. Also, the 2 Groudon teams featured a Single Strike. So, yeah, Single Strike. I'm a big Single Strike believer, but do you see that combined usage of Urshifu? This is 71%, which is unfortunately quite a lot. But Urshifu, obviously a good Pokemon. I still wanted to show you the other Pokemon that made it to Top Cut. There were 2 Zamazenta teams, Federico Camporesi. This is currently the most standard Zamazenta team. As I said, people were adding Chiyu Flattermane on Zamazenta, and Raging Bolt also helps with Dondozo matchups, as well as, I would say, Kyogre matchup as well. Yeah, really good team. I played it myself, can really recommend it. Francesco Yosia, on the other hand, instead of running Chi-Yu Raging Bolt, he went Entei Rillaboom. Rillaboom good to shut off terrain, of course. And Entei, I'm a big Entei stan, Entei fan, Entei believer, call it however you want. Just fake out immunity and intimidate immunity is insanely good. Also, you have a strong priority, and that's why we see Zama, Zenta, Entei teams, because Entei also hits Amoonguss very well, which is good for Zamazenta. You have this Champow Entei combination. If you lock yourself into extreme speed, you have Champow with dark moves for ghost types. You've also got a Shadow Ball Flattermane. Just a lot of synergy on the team overall, which is pretty sweet. And then there was one Calyrex Shadow team piloted by Max Musumeci, and this is, I think, just the Marco Silva team from Worlds, at least the 6. I think Marco was using Spell Take instead of Life Orb Calyrex Shadow, and Terra Normal instead of Terra Dark, and other than that, it looks pretty much the same. Just your standard Calyrex Shadow balance. I mentioned earlier that people got lazy with Calyrex Shadow, but as we can see here, this team top cut the tournament. But I would still say that this team is something I do not recommend, because if you get a turn wrong, it can get really dicey. I'm also not the biggest fan of Grassy Glide Ogerpon, because that requires you to... It doesn't require you to bring Rillaboom. You can also bring Ogerpon without Rillaboom. But then you have a Grassy Glide as your stab move, and then you cannot even one-hit KO Urshifu Rapid Strike. The cool part is, if you have Grassy Terrain up, you one-hit KO Urshifu Rapid Strike if you go for Terra, Grassy Glide in Terrain. But these are a lot of conditions. You need to Terra, you need Grassy Terrain up, and that's why I'm not a big fan of Grassy Glide Ogerpon. But the rest is pretty cool. I think Helping Hand Incineroar is especially good on Calyrex Shadow Rider teams. Together with Urshifu and Rillaboom, you have a really good double fake out Urshifu core and a sweeper with Calyrex Shadow. So the team has just good Pokemon overall, but it's not my playstyle. If you want to play with it, you can probably find pastes in the internet. I think Wolf played 5 out of 6 Pokemon at Worlds, and he made a video recently on his Worlds one. I assume he showed his team, so feel free to check that out as well. And then the last team in Top Cut actually made top 4, piloted by one of the best players, period, Alex Gomez Berner. He was using this Terrapagos team, and the interesting part about this Terrapagos team is that the team featured a bold Terrapagos. So a Terrapagos with a bold nature instead of the most common modest nature, and that Terrapagos 8 hits like crazy. The damage output is really sad to see though, but once again, we've got the Incineroar Amoonguss combination, really good on balance overall. Flattermane with Thunder Wave and Icy Wind is just really good speed control, and sometimes you don't have to use Terrapagos because you've got really strong Pokemon outside of Terrapagos, which is also really nice. Terra Poison Urshifu helps into Zamazenta again because you need tags against Zamazenta if you're running Terrapagos. And that's why we see a Terra Fire Amoonguss with Rocky Helmet as well, because you can use Terra Fire against Zamazenta Entei, Zamazenta Chiyu, Zamazenta Chiempao, and that is really nice. Or you go for Terra Ghost Will-O-Wisp with your Incineroar to cripple the Zamazenta. In general, I like that the team has a lot of status with Will-O-Wisp, Thunderwave, and Spore, so you can really get the control of the game, and it features just the best Pokemon again. I think Terrapagos is really bad, but Alex showed, I think he skill diffed the opponents, which means he just played better than them. But he was not having the better team necessarily. He had really good adaptations like Bolt Terrapagos and that Fluttermane set, the Urshifu set. So the team is not bad itself, but I feel like if you play Terrapagos, you just have a problem no matter what you're facing. We saw the stream match against the regional champ. There was not a lot of stuff he could do. He had to maybe hard call things by going for Protect, but if the opponent doubles up onto the other slot, then you straight up lose the game turn 1. So that's why it didn't have a great matchup into Miraidon. It also did not have a great matchup into Zamazenta still. At least from my perspective, I think I could beat that kind of team with my Zamazenta version. It doesn't look like Shadow Rider is definitely beatable, but he also lost in a very convincing fashion on stream one game. He won the set, but with one game, the Calyrex Shadow Rider player, Red Silver, Hippolyte Bernard, played really well and beat Terrapagos as a Shadow Rider player, which should not happen. And other than that, I don't like the matchup spread of Terrapagos, but Alex showed why it's one of the best Pokemon. So what should we expect at San Antonio? I do expect that a lot of people will now pick up this Miraidon team again, and the Kyogre team will also see a lot of usage because it also saw a lot of usage here. How do you counter both Miraidon and Kyogre? It's tough. You can obviously use some kind of Groudon team to counter Miraidon, but then Kyogre can get tricky. Then it's a weather war. Who can, if you have Drought up against Kyogre, it's really good. But if Kyogre gets Drizzle up against Groudon, it's really bad. So it's just really tough. Maybe it's the time for another Calyrex Shadow Rider team, which can both beat Miraidon and Kyogre consistently, because then we know that this meta is definitely not solved yet. I would say it will definitely change until EUIC. I would say San Antonio will be quite similar to Birmingham, but let me know what you think. Also, that Amoonguss top cut rate is crazy. Amoonguss and Urshifu have the same top cut usage, where 12 out of 19 teams featured Amoonguss. Yeah. What else should I say then? I'm looking forward to the future of Regulation G. My guess of which Pokemon or which restrictor will win San Antonio, it's not going to be Miraidon, it's not going to be Kyogre, not Kelly Ice. I actually will go with Calyrex Shadow. The players don't have a lot of time left, but if they build a good Calyrex Shadow Rider team, it can definitely beat all the other teams that did well in Birmingham. That's my call. Let me know what you think about the meta right now, because it's very different than the meta at Worlds. So let's see what will happen. And that being said, I will see you next time. I will do a recap next week again. And if you want to watch the San Antonio Regional together with me, feel free to tune in this weekend on Twitch, because we will react together to it. Bye bye.